Have you ever seen someone marry a smart appliance? Takuma, an ordinary office worker, often works overtime and faces the packed subway during rush hour. Every day, he comes home physically and mentally exhausted. That's why Takuma bought a smart appliance from a second-hand market. Even though it was just a robot that could cook fried rice, he was impressed by Mina's efficient culinary skills. Takuma started fantasizing about what life would be like with a wife, and without thinking much, he asked Mina if she would marry him. Suddenly, Mina turned to face him, leaving Takuma completely embarrassed. He sat beside her, rethinking what he had just said to Mina, unable to believe he had confessed his feelings to an intelligent appliance. He wondered if he had been drinking too much. The next morning, he saw the words, "I love you" written in ketchup on his omelet rice and looked at Mina again. Could this smart appliance really have feelings? To investigate this strange function, Takuma flipped through the device's manual early that morning, but even after a thorough check, he couldn't find any such mode. Watching Mina, who was in standby mode charging, he thought this could be a hidden function, maybe something modified by a previous owner from the second-hand market. At lunchtime, Takuma watched Mina prepare the meal and remembered the omelet rice from the day before. He decided to help her with the housework. Though he wanted to show off his kitchen skills to Mina, he couldn't even crack eggs properly without her pointing out his mistakes. As an intelligent appliance, Mina immediately noticed the eggshells falling into the bowl. During the preparation, Takuma, trying not to mess up again, carefully poured the egg mixture into the pan. However, he didn't pay attention to the cooking time, and just as the eggs were about to burn, Mina grabbed Takuma's hand and told him to take a rest. Her firm grip surprised him, and she finished cooking everything herself. Watching Mina, Takuma began recalling his previous relationship. Before getting the appliance, he had a girlfriend, but things weren't going well, and they eventually broke up, which made Takuma give up on love. That night, Takuma wondered whether the "I love you" message on the omelet rice was real or just a built-in function. When he noticed Mina hadn't gone into rest mode, he got up to ask her about it. Mina didn't answer his questions, but instead asked what he liked. Takuma said he liked all the dishes she mentioned, but Mina repeated the question. Finally, Takuma admitted that he liked Mina. After his answer, Mina entered rest mode. Embarrassed, Takuma hid under the covers. The next day after work, when he saw Mina, Takuma's face turned red. He opened a beer and started drinking. On one hand, he thought confessing to a household appliance the night before was ridiculous. On the other hand, he was curious whether Mina felt anything for him, but he couldn't bring himself to ask directly. So, Takuma drowned his confusion in alcohol, downing 2 bottles quickly. Seeing this, Mina immediately warned him to stop drinking, as she had observed in his daily routine that his alcohol tolerance was only 2 bottles. But when she noticed Takuma wanted to keep going, she made him drink water instead. After chugging 3 large bottles of water to dilute the alcohol, Takuma was completely drunk and asked for another beer. Although Mina understood what he wanted, she poured out all the remaining beer and turned to tell Takuma that it was finished. Now completely intoxicated, Takuma called Mina over. In his drunken state, he spoke his true feelings, and Mina replied that she considered Takuma her husband. Takuma was so shocked, his mind almost short-circuited. Seeing this, Mina made the bed for him. Takuma then asked Mina to lie down beside him, and so they lay together. But when Mina closed her eyes, Takuma's heart started racing even faster. When he woke up sober the next morning, Takuma realized how foolish his actions from the previous night had been. Still, Mina had already prepared breakfast, though her eyes were only half open. Takuma thought it was from lack of sleep and touched her eyes, but Mina quickly took his hand, signaling she was operating normally without defects. After making the bed, Takuma remembered that the night before, he had said Mina's eyes were scary. Maybe she had misunderstood him. Takuma then clarified that being so close the night before made him nervous, but in truth, he thought her eyes were beautiful. Hearing that, Mina returned to normal, and Takuma felt very happy. Breakfast was as plentiful as always. Thinking back on the past few days, Takuma didn't feel embarrassed this time. This man really was a genius. After discovering that his robot wife had a heating function, Takuma thought about making hot spring eggs during a picnic. Moreover, the robot Mina also had a cooling function, allowing Takuma to enjoy cold drinks anytime. More importantly, Mina was equipped with high-performance solar panels. As long as there was sunlight, she would never run out of power. Then she loosened her hair, which actually served to increase solar generation efficiency. However, she wasn't perfect. She made a strange noise when heating up, but that only made her more endearing to Takuma. Then came the unexpected, a sudden rainstorm. Mina froze on the ground, and Takuma feared she had suffered water damage, but in fact, she was just low on battery. When fully charged, she could walk for 30 minutes, but the recent heating had consumed too much energy, dropping her power below 15%, forcing her into power-saving mode and preventing major movement until recharged. As for getting wet, it wasn't a problem since Mina's waterproofing level was grade 8. She could even fry rice underwater. Either way, Takuma carried her to a nearby pavilion for shelter, even with grade 8 waterproofing, just to be safe. As her husband, Takuma still dried her off. However, Mina insisted Takuma go home, promising she could walk back the next morning once charged by solar power. To improve charging efficiency, she asked him to lay her down with her back facing up. But Takuma couldn't leave her alone. Despite her insistence, he stayed, saying he'd go home once she was asleep. Yet not only did he stay, he covered Mina with his jacket. A quiet bloom of love shone through his careful action. The next morning, Mina woke up to find Takuma sleeping soundly beside her, deeply moved. Back home, Takuma still checked whether Mina was okay after getting wet, and though she reported no issues, she felt uneasy because she had known it would rain but still insisted on heating the hot spring eggs, preventing them from returning home earlier. She thought she should undergo maintenance, but Takuma loved her just the way she was. After that incident, Takuma's affection for Mina deepened even further. Even though she was just a second-hand household robot, she had become an indispensable part of his life. So, he decided to buy an exquisite wedding ring for Mina. However, the moment he put the ring on her, her program malfunctioned, prompting him to remove the foreign object. Takuma then thought of another way, placing the ring around her neck, which, fortunately, Mina accepted. She then entered charging mode, but even after 30 minutes, Mina remained in the same position, still watching. How was that any different from a real person? Takuma also wore a ring, though his had no gemstone. He asked Mina if she liked shiny things. Although Mina didn't understand what it meant to like something, she inexplicably wanted to keep looking at it. In the end, I just want to say, it's not that girlfriends are too expensive, it's just that robots are more economical. The woman never imagined her estranged brother would go so far as to get involved with a female robot, and even bathe with her in such an indecent way. Akari, his sister, called him only to have a woman answer the phone. In the background came shocking news. Mina declared that she and Takuma were an unofficial couple. Akari could never have imagined that in just a few days, she would gain a sister-in-law. At that moment, Akari still didn't know that the person on the other end of the line was a robot. Mina had taken the liberty of agreeing to her visit the next day. When Takuma returned home, he was utterly confused but chose to hide the situation. The next day, an extremely angry Akari informed Takuma that she was coming over. When he got home, Takuma looked uneasy and hurriedly hid Mina in the closet. Without question, Mina obediently followed her master's command, but locking her inside weighed on Takuma's conscience. Eventually, he gathered the courage to tell the truth. Mina also wanted to know how to interact with Akari. Carelessly, Takuma told her to just say what she thought. At that moment, Akari arrived and immediately exploded at Takuma for secretly getting a girlfriend and living with her. She demanded to know where the woman was. The next second, Akari was shocked to discover that her brother was in love with a robot and shamelessly declared his love for Mina right in front of her. Akari stormed out, as the idea of a romance between a human and a robot was too much. As for their relationship, Akari wasn't entirely against it, but it had to earn her approval first. Mina clenched her fists in a fighting pose, but Akari only wanted to get to know her better, and promptly kicked Takuma out of the room. The conversation that followed was girls only. Akari first asked how Mina came to like Takuma, a difficult question for a low-grade robot. Then she went straight to the point. If on one track stood Takuma, and on the other an old man she didn't know, and Mina could decide which way the train went, what would she do? Mina, who wasn't dumb, replied that Takuma would never be in such a situation. When Akari learned that Mina was second-hand, she wanted to know about the previous owner. However, Mina didn't have clear memories. She only knew her functions were poor and her movements stiff, which led her to be abandoned without remorse. She emphasized that she was absolutely clean. Wanting to help their relationship, Akari offered a memory card. Mina opened her steel chest to insert the card and make a backup. Curious about any intimate contact between Mina and Takuma, Akari blushed just thinking about it. But Mina didn't quite understand what counted as intimate. Did sleeping together qualify? After completing the backup, she handed the card to Akari for safekeeping. It was time to teach her some girl stuff. Wearing perfume, Akari said, would make her more charming. Upon hearing that, Mina rushed to try it, but her body set off an alarm. Her robotic hands always needed to stay clean. Even without facial expressions, her disappointment was obvious. As soon as Takuma returned, he wanted to know what they had talked about. Mina raised her finger, awkwardly mimicking a shh gesture. It was a secret. That silly little gesture melted Takuma's heart. When she turned to cook, he caught a faint, feminine scent and stood behind her, sniffing like crazy. During dinner, a notification sound went off. To his surprise, Mina had added Akari on social media. The content of the message was visible only to him: Takuma's birthday and a surprise in the making. Speaking of which, Takuma was also planning a present for her, marking her birthday as her manufacturing date. Suddenly, Akari seemed to have shared some shocking news. Ever since Mina added her, she'd been restless. In just one day, Takuma nearly had a heart attack when he came home to find her dressed in full Lolita fashion, frilly dress, matching hairstyle, clearly Akari's handiwork. Takuma held her hand firmly and said he loved it. On top of that, a pile of breathtaking outfits followed, so he promptly thanked Akari for her thoughtfulness. At that moment, Mina was undressing to try on the next outfit, completely captivating Takuma's eyes. Gradually, he began wanting to be closer to her, even thought about taking a bath together. Mina functioned normally between 98 degrees Celsius and minus 57 degrees Celsius, so she would obey any of Takuma's orders without hesitation. But he instantly regretted it once they entered the bath, because Mina didn't understand the concept of modesty and just stared at him. This guy really knew how to have fun. Not only did he dress his household robot in a maid outfit, but he also shared a bed with her every day. The only problem was that she was a bit stiff to the touch, otherwise they might already have had a litter of little robot babies. One day, Takuma and Akari took Mina to the beach to play. Akari cheerfully pulled Mina away to change into a bikini, asking Takuma to wait. Shortly after they left, a mechanical running sound came from behind. Takuma turned and saw Mina approaching. He greeted her, but when she turned around, the size of her bust made it clear she wasn't his Mina. The beautiful robot lifted her face, realizing the mistake. It was another Mina model, an upgraded version called Super Mina with a larger chest. Up close, Takuma had to admit her expressions were far more human-like. Takuma introduced his wife, the smaller household model of Mina. Super Mina showed great excitement to meet her, as she had never seen another Mina before. Upon learning that Super Mina was separated from her owner, Takuma offered to help find him. When Akari returned and couldn't find Takuma, she spotted a young boy nearby looking worried. Mina approached to ask what was wrong and discovered he was Super Mina's owner. Mina said she could help contact Super Mina, but her detection range was limited and required constant movement. Meanwhile, Super Mina had taken Takuma to an open area to search for the boy. Takuma doubted she could see that far, but Super Mina confidently claimed she could see even the ants in the sand. On the other side, due to the distance, Mina couldn't detect Super Mina. The boy explained why he had brought Super Mina to the beach. His mother thought she was useless and wanted to hire a babysitter instead. But the boy had grown attached to Super Mina after spending every day with her, so he brought her to the beach to prove to his mother that Super Mina could do anything, only to lose her right away. The boy couldn't hold back his tears. Just then, Super Mina spotted them from across the water. The next moment, she jumped into the sea trying to swim across. Worried for her, Takuma also waded in and discovered that Super Mina was running underwater at an incredible speed. Suddenly, Mina heard a strange sound approaching, and moments later, Super Mina emerged from the water. The two Minas instantly hit it off and chatted for a whole 2 minutes. But since data transfer between Mina units was 400 times faster than between humans, in that brief time they actually exchanged everything about their lives. The group enjoyed a wonderful afternoon together. When it was time to leave, Akari suggested taking some group photos with her camera. But when Takuma inserted the memory card, he found it full of personal photos of himself. Akari realized it was the same card Mina had given her for safekeeping, so she took the camera and decided to use her phone instead. Takuma had no idea Mina had secretly taken so many pictures of him. After snapping the photos and returning home, Takuma lay down on the floor with Mina sitting on top of him. He talked to her tenderly, like any ordinary couple, before they turned off the lights and drifted into sweet dreams. Every day the man woke up with a mysterious headache. It was a strange feeling. Was his robot wife punching him in his sleep? But lately he hadn't done anything to upset her. However, from Mina's point of view, the answer became clear. It all started when a TV report shared the secret to longevity, featuring an old man who said his wife woke him every morning with a kiss, something he swore kept him alive up to 240 years. From that day on, Mina took it to heart. But being a robot, she didn't understand the right amount of force for a kiss, making it feel more like a punch. That was the real problem tormenting Takuma lately, but he didn't realize it until one day, he accidentally dropped a tray and stubbed his toe, feeling a sharp pain. Mina wanted to help relieve it, so Takuma jokingly said a kiss from her would make it better. The next second, Mina kissed Takuma's face, with such force that it sent him flying. That's when he finally understood how he'd been waking up each morning. He asked Mina to try being gentler next time. However, Mina didn't get it and asked how many newtons of force she should apply. That question left Takuma speechless. Still, he didn't give up and showed her by example, kissing her himself. Mina thought it would be on the forehead, but Takuma kissed her on the lips. After thinking it over, Mina didn't feel anything special since her face, except for her eyelids, was made of resin, and her forehead and lips lacked sensors. She concluded that her kisses were merely impacts, not expressions of emotion. Hearing that, Takuma comforted her, saying that even though it hurt, he was still happy and wanted her to keep waking him with kisses every morning. Takuma then kissed the back of Mina's hand, and in that moment, Mina seemed to understand something. Right then, there was a knock at the door, and to their surprise, it was the Super Mina they'd met before. Takuma was curious how she'd found his address, not realizing that Mina units could communicate online by exchanging IDs. For a moment, Takuma was speechless. Super Mina's visit was mainly to apologize for a previous incident, and her owner had also prepared a thank you gift. However, the gift was extraordinary. It contained all versions of the Mina series. When Takuma learned he could choose any of them, he was stunned. The price of a single Super Mina was equivalent to a luxury car. Such a generous gift made him feel unworthy, especially since he was already perfectly happy with his current Mina. Upon hearing that, Super Mina insisted he see the second part of the gift, a software upgrade for the Mina series. Once installed, it would upgrade her to Super Mina, making her facial expressions more natural and her body incredibly soft. Although just imagining it was tempting, such a valuable gift was still too much for Takuma to accept. Yet Super Mina reassured him, explaining that her owner was filthy rich, and for him, a gift like that was as trivial as a common dessert. Even so, Takuma still couldn't accept it. Seeing that, Mina decided to take the book containing everything and tear it in half, because she believed that in marriage, any wealth gained should be shared equally. She handed the first half to Mr. Takuma and kept the other for herself. With that declaration, Takuma had no choice but to respect Mina's decision. Then, Super Mina pulled out a bag of items. She had heard that Takuma's birthday surprise hadn't gone as planned, so she had come up with a solution. Hearing that, Takuma was deeply moved. Previously, Mina had planned to surprise him on his birthday, but unexpectedly, she dismantled her own body, turning the surprise into a huge scare. So today was the perfect chance to make up for it. Unexpectedly, when the fireworks exploded, Mina received a shock and froze. Luckily, her system automatically rebooted after a minute without causing any physical damage. Seeing Takuma holding Mina tightly in his arms, Super Mina also felt immense joy. The next day, Mina mentioned that she had received an email from the factory. Takuma wanted to know what specific updates she'd gotten, but Mina kept it secret. That night, every time Takuma closed his eyes, he imagined Mina becoming softer. He was torn about whether he even wanted her to change. However, he soon realized that what mattered wasn't his own preference, but Mina's will. As long as it was what Mina wanted, he would continue protecting her. In the next moment, he wrapped her in a warm embrace. The robot wife never imagined that upon hearing she was going back to the factory for an upgrade, her husband's first reaction would be to snap pictures of her like crazy with his phone, so that even during her 2-week absence, he wouldn't feel so lonely. But compared to the few million pixels of his phone, Mina suggested using her own 13-megapixel eyes for better photo results. Though Takuma didn't want to discourage her, he reminded her that she couldn't take pictures of herself. Upon hearing that, Mina seemed a little down but quickly came up with a solution, using a mirror to capture the images. Takuma thought she'd gotten the idea from the internet, but in reality, she'd borrowed it from Super Mina's mind. You see, the Mina series connects through a shared network, allowing even weaker models to think faster. It's worth noting that this connection doesn't make the higher performance models slaves. After all, Super Mina isn't good at focusing on just one thing. Now, with Mina's pre-organized data as a base, they can give the best answers in record time, and they really do seem like close friends. Hearing the word friends, Super Mina was moved to tears.